It's ding ding, two men in a ring. We put pride in your stride and a quiver in your liver. You want 'em, we've got 'em, coming to you. Loud and proud, he's the biggest, he's the baddest. It's Mr. Gavin Davis on the Gavin Davis Podcast Show.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Gavin Davis Podcast with my co-host, Dave Bruff. Tonight's guest is our first female guest on the podcast. She needs no introduction. However, it is introduction time. So here we go. She is a two-time world champion at black belt. She is a first-degree black belt under Marcelo Garcia and Rob Abels, who is a fourth-degree black belt. She is a two-time Fight to Win champion. She is the owner of LP Martial Arts in Dallas, Texas. So me and Dave want to welcome to the podcast Mrs. Peace and Light herself, Chelsah Lyons. Chelsah, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me. Hello.
So what we want to do, we want to go straight to the first question, okay? So I want you to tell us and tell the audience about how and why you started training in 2010 and your first thoughts on the sport of jiu-jitsu.
So two things happened that led me to MMA first.
Right.
I had seen Gina Carano and Caitlin Young fight. I think it was like her first MMA fight. And when I saw that, immediately I was like, wow, this is amazing. And they have females doing this. And I just thought, like, you can legally do this and like nobody's getting in trouble. And I saw the art within it, within the fight. And I don't think I had ever witnessed anything like that. And then I was working at a dry cleaners, and there was a lot of flyers that were left where local businesses would come in and leave their flyers. And I found this dusty old flyer to an MMA gym. And I remember telling myself that when I saw them fight, I was like, oh, I want to do that. That looks amazing. I bet I could do that. I feel like I'd be really good at that. And then some time had gone by, and there was a small kicker that really led me to it. I got held at gunpoint for a second time. So two things came from that. I said, okay, well, maybe we should stop talking about what we're going to do and we should go do it just in case we're not here tomorrow. And the second thing was, if something really pops off, like maybe I really need to know how to handle myself if they want something more than like my cheap bag, right? Because those are replaceable. So, that really will motivate you or it will tear you down. For me personally, I got angry and then I put my feet on the ground and I said, okay, let's figure out what we're going to do. So I took that dusty flyer. I really feel like the universe just kind of handed it to me. I walked in and I was like, hey, you guys train here? You guys fight? I'd love to fight for y'all. And so that was really like the beginning of my whole journey.
Okay. And so let's talk about like Dallas MMA 300 and Star BJJ. So
Okay.
is when you walked in and with this flyer, was this Dallas MMA 300, was it?
It was.
Yeah. Okay. And so you actually get on the mats for the first time. What was that experience like?
Man, I think I'm weird because I was like, wow, this is awesome. Like,
right.
I just remember it was sweaty, super dusty. I was like, I don't think anybody cleans here. Everybody was like grunting and aggressive. And I was very like taken back at first and was also like, man, I can't wait to get out there as well. Because looking from the outside, I think you go one of two ways. You're either like, I would never do that, or you're like, I got to figure out how they're doing what they're doing so well. So I remember just being excited and really feeling like I was somewhere where I would be able to excel. And I was somewhere where I could really be myself and wouldn't be, I don't know how to explain it, kind of like quieted for being who I am, for being aggressive, being an aggressive female. That's not always accepted
right.
In every outlet in the world. And there it was very accepted. And I just remember after the first day, I like couldn't wait to go back the next day. Like I was like, I think I found my place. And everything else I was doing in life seemed very boring in comparison to it.
So previous to that, had you done many sports through like college and schooling and that?
When I was younger, I did a lot of sports when I was younger. And be what it is, like we were really poor when I was growing up, so I may enter a sport, but for whatever reason, like cost, I couldn't continue it. I would get into sport. We moved a lot.
Right.
So just with that, you don't really get to go with a team for a long time and really grow there. But I did karate when I was younger. Don't tell anybody. And I loved it. It was great for me. I did Shotokan.
Dave did
We
karate.
didn't know. You did karate?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I did
they-
Shotokan as well. Yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
perfect. You know why? Because we didn't know jujitsu existed. But if you're
yeah,
gonna learn a karate, I think it was a great one to
yeah.
learn. And then I did track and field, drill team, volleyball, fast pitch, softball. Like I just liked being active. Anything I could do, I would enter.
So let's talk about how you like, gravitated towards Rob, because I met Rob in 2019 when I came over to Dallas, and I had a
Good
great week
times.
with you all.
Yeah, that was so
Yeah,
fun.
it was amazing, and I learned so much, especially with the 2-on-1 grip and working that. And I'm hitting
Yeah.
it all. I'm hitting it all the time in training now. But
Perfect. I live for it.
I think Rob is the coolest white dude I've ever met in my life. Yeah,
For sure.
he is
For sure.
super cool. So just tell us
Mhm.
how you met Rob and how you gravitated towards him and training with him.
Oh man. Okay, so I kind of love this, right? Because I truly believe like in manifesting. I believe the universe aligned you, so on and so forth, right? Um, so I left MMA 300 and went to Star because I followed my jujitsu coach from there because the owner of MMA 300 tried to assault me and not in a sports like way.
Okay.
And that day he like had me pinned down in a situation. I was supposed to be preparing for an MMA fight that I was going to do and helping him as well. I was maybe a month into judo, jujitsu, and Muay Thai, right? And he put me in a position and then started doing things outside of what you do in training.
Yeah.
And that day I couldn't move my arms, I couldn't move my legs. And I think I really realized what not being able to fight back felt like.
Yeah.
And so my voice works really well. So that's good because there were people near. And I think he didn't expect me to speak up. I did. When I did, that whole situation stopped and I kind of left for a couple of weeks.
I've lost your
Chelsea,
sound.
your comms are gone just for a sec.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we got you.
Business is calling.
Mhm.
Where did we cut off?
So where you were able to verbally shout out
Yeah.
and then you know what I mean. So
Okay.
just
I've
pick up from
never
there.
I've never been a quiet person. So I think he picked the wrong one on the right day. So I used my voice. People in the room heard, but nobody knew what had happened. And I left. And about 2 weeks later, I got a call from my jujitsu instructor.
Yeah.
Now, side note, as a business owner now, I understood why he was calling. He's like, "Where are my students at?" So I think he was calling to check in. Especially I was the only female at that time. So everybody's like, "Oh, maybe she disappeared." But my jujitsu instructor was like, "Hey, we just wanted to check in, see how you were liking your classes." And I don't know why, but I just opened up to him and I told him what had happened. And he was like, "Oh, you need jujitsu now more than ever." And I was like, "You're not wrong." So he had told me that guy was no longer there. I couldn't really afford to do it and invited me back to a class. So I came back because I'm not one to just quit. Um, and so he was like, this guy's kind of a terrible guy. So we're all going to start jujitsu with Yusuf.
Yeah.
And I just, at that point I was like, okay, jujitsu, whatever you say, I will follow you. I didn't even care who was saying it. I was just like, I know that I belong in this and I know that I should be a part of this because this is probably going to help me never have to face this situation again, at least in the same way. So I followed him over to Star. There was a local tournament, okay? And I competed against all guys. Uh, that was about 8 months of training at Star. I had moved to Dallas after that with my boyfriend. And when we walked outside, because we were like looking at the place, making sure we would like the neighborhood, he said, "Will you be happy here?" And I look across the street and it says jujitsu. I'm like, I think I'm going to be fine here. Are you going to be happy? And I just walked across the street and I went inside and I was like, "Hey, you guys train? Like, I'm moving." and I don't think I'm going to be able to get to my gym as often. I'd love to train here. Well, the guy at the desk, right when I walked in, he goes, "Hey, did you used to have short blonde hair?" And I was like, "Maybe. What'd she do?" And he goes, "I think you fought one of our guys in a tournament." And I was like, "Oh, can I come in?" And he was like, "Yeah, nobody likes that guy anyway." So there's a video of that tournament that I was speaking about that we did when I was at Star. And I got the guy down and I'm sitting on top of him. And in the video, there's a guy right across from us. There's my coach at the time on one side, and right across from us is Rob coaching the guy that's under me. I had no idea who Rob was. And we were like this close together, but he was coaching the other guy. Fast forward 6 months later, I walk into his gym, and that's who that guy was talking about when he said, "I think you fought that guy." I walk into his gym. I'm like, "Hey, can I train here?" And I've been training there ever since. And I just think it's so funny that I was actually in a tournament like 2 feet away from him months prior to even walking into his gym, and had no idea that that would be my, not only my future coach, but like somebody who would like absolutely change the path of my life and like really help me find something within myself that would take me further than I ever believed. So I don't know that I found Rob. I think that the universe was like, you guys need to come together so that you can find your full potential. So I don't know if I found him or if it was just an alignment, you know?
Yeah, I really enjoyed my time there. The way you say it was amazing. Well, everyone was amazing with me and the lads. So we yeah, very good people.
Mm-hmm.
What I'm going to do, I'm going to pass you over to Dave Chelsah, okay?
Okay.
That's really interesting. I'm sorry you had to go through such traumatic experiences to get into martial arts, but it's I've got some questions here, but I just wanted to pick up on one thing you said, Chelsea. You were the only female in the class. Was that daunting at all? Or do you think when females turn up to a class and it's all men, it puts them off?
I believe for many women it is. And now being a coach and having so many years under my belt, I know that it is for a lot of women. I grew up with all guy cousins, and like I had a lot of guy friends growing up. I had a brother. So like we would roughhouse a lot. So to me, like going in and having to fight with these guys, it was different day to day. But mentally, I don't think I ever really looked at it like that. I was like, I'll fight anybody. I don't care. And I think I just like, I never really allowed myself to create that line between myself and men. And I don't know if it was just something that was never there for me growing up, or maybe I never thought of it as men versus women. I'm just like, you're a person and I'm a person, and as long as we're both breathing, I'm pretty sure I can beat you in some way, shape, or form. And if I can't beat you, then I will continue to come to class and come back tomorrow and try again. So it daunting, not for me, but definitely some days I was like, man, this is so hard. Like they're so heavy and strong, but it pushed me, to just want to be better. I think it was more daunting when a girl would walk in and I was like, yes, I have a girl. And then a month later, she would never be seen again. And I was like, oh man, we lost another one.
I'd like to talk about your training, Chelsea. Uh, how do you train? Is it all BJJ, or do you do fitness around that or strength training? What's your kind of weekly schedule like in terms of how you're progressing?
So as of now, being a gym owner, it's like I have to work it in with that. Prior to opening a gym, I mean, 2-3 times a day, you're on the mat, you're training. I would cross train outside. I was just trying to figure out what is cross training, like what kind of exercises do I need to do as an athlete. Today, I feel like I have a really good program in place, and I don't even know if you'd call it a program. It's just the discipline that I stick to. So I train minimum 4 or 5 days a week. I train at Rob's once to twice a week. I train with my students. Outside of that, minimum 2 to 3 times a week, I lift, I do cardio, I do anything that will help with explosive movements. I will now do like working into a tournament, like let's say a tournament or a super fight. That month, like, man, I hardly take any days off. And 10 out of 10 would not suggest that, but it's just how I operate. So I'll do probably 3 to 4 hours technique, rolling, comp training within a day, then do about an hour and a half of lifting cardio outside of it. And then on an off day, I'll probably turn that into 2 hours of wrestling. So that when I go out there, I feel like no matter who's in front of me, like I can beat them. Going into Worlds, if I can, I will cross train with a couple of different people from some other gyms as well, just to be able to go at a comp level with people who don't know my game, and I don't know theirs as well, because we're not all training under the same lineage. So that helps a lot as well. So that's like a day-to-day. I use my class, like if I'm teaching and it's maybe anywhere from 2 to 4 weeks out from competition, I'm like, I love you guys, but today we're comp training because I'm competing. So I need you guys to help me get ready, which has been kind of cool because it helps them as well when they want to compete. I think they get to see like, this is what it's going to take if you want to get to that goal.
So so it's an incredible amount of energy going into your training. How do you prepare special diets to sustain that, or?
So I've just learned over the past few years, and it depends, am I cutting weight or am I not going to cut weight for this one? I eat what makes me feel good, right? I eat what gives me energy. I think sometimes I undereat, and then I'm trying to find like, okay, what am I lacking? I talk to some of my friends, like I have some nutritionists. We have people who work in the health and wellness area. I'm also licensed as a massage therapist. So I'm in that health and wellness world as well. So I will gather as much knowledge as I can. Anytime I've competed from purple belt up, anytime I talk to these guys who are at a world level, I ask them what their diets are, and I just take a little bit of information from everybody. So I stick to food as fuel. So if it makes me feel good, if it's going to give me energy, I'm just very strict on myself, especially going into competition, just because I don't want to feel like I'm dragging day to day in preparation for that. So basically it's like anything that's like brown rice, quinoa, vegetables, and what's my protein source that day. Lots of water, and then endless vitamins and supplements.
You're fighting at 70 kilo lightweight, are you?
Yeah, well, no, I have. I have done lightweight, I've done medium, and I've done medium heavy.
Right, okay. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I've done all of them. One, because depending on which platform you're under, it varies what they consider that. As well as, you know, if I've been given like an opportunity in the past, like, oh, in 2 weeks you're going to be fighting. It's like, okay, well, what weight can I meet them at, you know, realistically in 2 weeks? Because I've just gotten to a point through training where my body has so much muscle, which I'm not complaining, right? But it's like once you get to that much muscle, cutting weight is taking all the water from my body. So am I going to weigh in the night before? Am I going to weigh in the day up? That also makes a difference, like what weight category I can weigh in at, and what my diet's going to have to be for that. But I think too, like, you know, cutting weight for competition and really just running at such a high level for the past, 7 years, like it's gotten me to a point where I don't even like to eat bad now, because I know there's always going to be an opportunity waiting for me. And everything we do day to day is so physical that I think learning how to eat to cut weight for competition has really just changed my lifestyle and how I eat day to day anyway.
So, but we talk about your preparation for competitions then. So you're going into competition training, and maybe particularly if we could talk about your world titles, which are amazing. How did you deal with other aspects, the pressure going into competitions, or particularly once you have a world title, or do you feel differences in pressure when you're the person to beat then, I suppose? Well, how do you cope with that kind of the psychological aspect of the high level competition?
Okay, so for me personally, I know that some people when they compete, like everything around them is going good. It has to be going a certain way. I feel like when I'm preparing for competition, sometimes everything around me is in turmoil because you have to give 150% out of the 100% that you have to win, right? You can go and compete or you can go and win. It's different mindset, right? So sometimes, like, I don't know, maybe I thrive under chaos. So the world around me reflects that because I'm so focused on preparing to win. I mean, mentally, I don't really have a lot of space for all of the other things going on in life because I am so focused on, did I do enough technical preparation? Is my weight at the right place? Who am I going against, right? So if it's a super fight, I get to particularly focus on one person. I love that because I'm like, ooh, let's see what their game is, because being able to change my game, not really change my game. I mean, when you go out there, you play your game. Like that's the whole idea, is like to make your game superior over what their game is in that moment, right? But to learn maybe where a hole will be in my game when I go against this particular person who's really good at something that maybe I don't focus on. So then I put more focus on that aspect in my game, being able to defeat them or being able to defend against something. Going into a tournament's a different mindset as well, because you don't know who you're going to go out there against. In a tournament, you could have one person in a day, you could have 10 people in a day. So you just have to be prepared in every inch of your game that it can defeat any type of player, whether they're, small and fast, whether they're big and strong, whether they're technical or agile. You just have to get yourself to a point where there's no stone left unturned. So when it comes to preparing for tournaments, I mean, I become laser beamed focused. And for me, it's not hard. It's hard, but it's not hard for me to do it because I absolutely am in love with the process. And I feel like every time that I have to put myself into that state of mind, I come out just a better person. It doesn't just affect my jujitsu, it affects my entire life. And I think it affects a couple of people around me who I won't realize until after it's happened. And they're like, oh, seeing you do that really helped me do this. I'm like, oh, good, because I was in complete turmoil outside of preparing for the competition. So I think I turn on when it's time to compete. Like I turn on. I'm like, this is where I thrive. This is what I want. So even when I'm tired, I'm no longer tired. Like I need to go train 3 more hours to know that I prepared the way I should. I go train 3 more hours and I'm like, oh, that was my off day, but that's okay.
Dave, have you got anything else with Chelsea on that?
No, Gav, over to you.
Because it's story time. So when I came into the gym and we were training down in Dallas, Texas, 2019, Rob said, "Oh, you go with Chelsea, right?" And we were doing no gi, Dave. So
Best
I had no gi. So I didn't have a clue what belt anyone was. And she wrapped me up like a Christmas present, right? I was in a triangle, I was in an armbar, I was in a Kimura, and then I was like, "Are you a black belt?" And she went, "Yeah, yeah." And I was like, "Yeah," like the level, the movements, it was just beautiful, really, really good. And you can see that obviously between Rob with Marcelo, and you could just see like the lineage there, and the quality in that gym was like really, really good. Do you know what I mean? And it was an absolute honor and a pleasure to be there.
Thank you.
So yeah, because when I've rolled with females before, and I don't want to, I totally agree with what you said earlier on, male, female, we're all the same. But when you normally roll with females as a male, you try and get a gauge of where they are first.
Right.
That's what I try to do. You know what I mean? Because especially if I don't know what belt they are.
Yeah, respectfully, right?
Yeah. And I learned very quickly that, I need to, even when I was playing my A game, it wasn't enough, Dave. Do you know what I mean? It wasn't enough. And I'm not ashamed to say that even on my own podcast. But it's great to see. It really is good to see. The absolute, not just the dedication that you're putting into this, but the actual quality in what you're doing. So what I want to do now, I want to talk about fight to win comps. Okay. I just want you to tell the viewers at home how big they are in America. Like I've in preparation for this interview, I've watched a lot of your matches on Fight to Win, and some of the matches that we're going to discuss. But just briefly talk, Chelsah, about the Fight to Win comps and like the rule set and stuff like that, please.
I love Fight to Win because basically there are no rules.
Right.
It's pretty. I mean, obviously you can't like eye gouge, punch, kick. Like, it's not combat jujitsu. It is still pure jujitsu. But you can slam. You can do heel hooks at purple belt. Like, you can do all of that. And I still remember the first Fight to Win. Like, it's a platform that helped a lot of us go further. And it was the first time that I got paid to do jujitsu, and I was like, well, this is different, because they told me a lot of people said you'd never make money in jujitsu. They are wrong. Right. And you see where it's going now. So yeah. But I absolutely love Fight to Win, Seth, Missy. Like, they really did us. I don't even know the words for it. Like, they gave us a hand up by creating that platform for us. And just to see where it's gone today from where it was. Like, I remember being on one of their first 10 shows. I think it was Fight to Win 6. And the production quality, like, it was like, like we were doing it in our backyard or something, to where it's at now, where it just looks like you're at a concert. You got a light show. Like, it's so professional. It's just amazing to see jiu-jitsu at that level. I don't even know. I think I've done like between 10 and 15 Fight to Win. Yeah. Because anytime, I was always ready, because if they called me, I was like, I'm on. Like, I'll be there. It's such a great platform too. It will take somebody who is maybe not very known, or even the gym is not very known, and you have a chance to go out there and make yourself known. And it's really up to you what you do, because they have provided everything you need. You just have to go out there and be able to fight at your best and show people you deserve to be at the top. So I just think Fight to Win for me was such a gift in life, that it's like, here's a gift, but what do you do with it, right? You have to make this work. And I like it because they were some of the first people to start broadcasting, or live streaming us. And that live stream at some point started reaching hundreds of thousands of people. Yeah. And just to know that, this is just in the last 5 years, really, has jiu-jitsu been at that level, where you can go on 3 or 4 different platforms and tune in and like see some of the world's best people going at it. And I feel like, for me personally, they were some of the first people to do that. And I love that I am a part of that, because it's like being like, we're just a cog in the wheel of what the art is and what it's becoming. But without that, would it even be where it is? So I think Fight to Win is a great platform. It's big in America. It's getting bigger. It's actually like, it's led to other promotions coming out, and getting even bigger. You know, the owner has crossed over with ADCC guys
Yeah.
to blow up that platform. And I'm very thankful to have been, you know, one of the first. I was a purple belt when they asked me to come on there.
Yeah.
And, you know, in jiu-jitsu as a purple belt, it's like, okay, well, you didn't quit at blue belt, so you're not a statistic, but you're still not a black belt. So like you go out there and you're like, I don't know if these people even care to see me, but I am here. So
Yeah.
we're gonna make the best of it. And I really got to grow with them from purple to black belt. And I think preparing for those competitions, it helped me realize just how far I could go as just, you know, a practitioner, and them allowing me to at, you know, brown belt to go against black belts was just, to me, I was like, well, you're gonna put me out there with black belts, like, and it's gonna be like, it made me step up my game. And at the same time, it's like, okay, we were able to fight people in our bracket. When I first started competing, like they would just put all the women in a bracket together, like whether you were white, purple, black belt, whether
Right.
you were heavy. Oh yeah, I remember being in a competition once and them going all female competitors to mat 6, and I was like, what? Like I was out there with like all higher belts, all different weight classes. So to see us go from that and then fight to win to provide a stage and like bring the world's best, like I've faced off against some of the world's best black belts on that stage,
Yeah, I know.
whereas we may or may not have met in a tournament,
Yeah.
right? So I love that platform. I think they've done a lot of good for jiu-jitsu and everything it stands for.
Yeah, I watched a lot of your matches online and was really impressed. One fight I want to ask you about is the Elizabeth Clay fight.
Yes.
Okay, the match you had with her, because I'm just going to put like my view across.
Okay.
And then you can expand on it, and you know, you can tell us exactly what's going on there. But it felt to me that you didn't get out the blocks in that fight.
Right.
It was like, I don't know if you gave her too much respect or you just, I don't know. It just felt like I was waiting for you to pick a bit of a pace up.
Right.
And then I know she caught you in the heel hook in the end, but it
Yep,
was
right.
like, I was like, what was going on there, Chelsea? What was the process there?
A few things. No excuses, first of
Okay.
all, right?
Okay.
Dark times.
Right.
So
Okay.
for me, for that one, like I felt very underprepared. I don't think
Right.
I've ever felt underprepared going into a tournament ever.
Okay.
And again, no excuses, but awarenesses, right? One, all jujitsu, all gyms, all businesses in Texas, we were shut down. That competition, and that was WNO, right? That fight to win it put on.
Yeah.
At that point, I didn't even know who she was, really, honestly.
Because she's got
And
some
she's
big
a great
wins.
practitioner. Oh yeah, she's a
Yeah.
great practitioner. I was in the back. Well, I'll get to that. Okay, so preparing for this tournament, like I had no training or this super fight. I had like very minimum training partners. Like I hardly got to see Rob. We were doing like what they call speakeasy jujitsu, right? Because like
Right.
everybody was shut down. Nobody was allowed to open their gym. Okay. So I was like, I would take one of my students, Michael, he would like meet at the gym and help me a little bit. Then when I could, I would go see Rob, which was not very often. I mean, everything was still shut down.
Yeah.
Like, and everybody was scared still because, you know, respectfully, nobody knew like what's real, what's not real. And everybody was holed up inside. And I would train with one of my best training partners. You may have met her, Mina, over at Rob's gym. She trains there. And my friend Haisa. So I didn't get in rounds that you should be getting in if you're going against one of the world's toughest black belts.
Yeah.
You know, I don't think like the mental aspect was hard because again, I've been through things where that doesn't really affect my training, but I had just opened a gym in, you know, like 3 months, and then they shut it down, and I put everything into that business that I had, which was not much, but it's everything I had. So all of this was going on, and I honestly don't feel like I was prepared to go into that fight. my coach was even like, Chelsah, Rob, he was like, I always support you, but do you feel prepared? Because he's like, I know you love jujitsu. I know you want to, represent jujitsu. I know you want to compete because you love jujitsu, but he's like, more than loving jujitsu, you love winning. And he's not wrong because I
Yeah.
do.
Yeah.
But I think at that moment, I honestly, I didn't even know like where we were going to be as a world, as a community, more than jujitsu, just the entire planet in itself. Who knew what was going to happen? And I think in that moment I was like, I have to go because we have to represent jujitsu. Like we have to, like, I have to fight now because what's even going to happen now? And I was very underprepared, which again is not an excuse. I
No.
should have been better prepared, but I don't think I had um, the option to prepare in the way you should for something like that. And it's funny because after I lost, I was in the back where we all warm up, and I was like very upset. And I'm upset anytime I lose, and then I get over it, I get better, and I go back in there. But uh Eddie was back, Eddie Bravo was back there, and he's like,
Yeah.
oh, don't feel bad. He goes, it's Elizabeth Clay. And I was like, that doesn't help me feel any better.
Yeah.
And he goes, you did good. And I was like, I was out so quick. But I told him, and I told my coach Rob, I was like, man, not only did I want to win just because I love to win, but they didn't really have any viewers allowed. Like, it was a very small crowd there.
Yeah.
But that crowd was the world's greatest jiu-jitsu practitioners, period, because it was everybody's coaches and teammates who could come out and support them. So that was a really big one to me. One, because it was the first WNO. And I was like, oh, this is a new platform. Like, I could go really far. I love what they're doing. I want to be a part of this. And at the same time, I was like, it's not even like just your everyday like viewers or just your white and blue belt showing up. It is the world's best people in these rooms right now. And the energy was amazing, but I really didn't get to perform the way that I perform. So
See,
that was a hard one for me.
Yeah, I think you've hit on a real good topic here because she's from Colorado, I believe. So because she was in a different state, was she able to train?
I don't know. I can't speak for her. I think she was in Alaska. And again, I'm not sure.
She might have been from Colorado originally and then beat up to. I've read somewhere she's from Colorado or she trains in Colorado. So, I'm just assuming that she's in a different state and then she can get her training in because there's probably different rules there with the COVID and everything. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe so. I don't want to say because I don't honestly know.
Okay.
And
okay.
again, like I didn't really know a lot about her at that time. I do know that she was training with people that we do have in the community here in Texas as well.
Yeah.
And I know just from seeing videos later that she was preparing, because obviously you have to prepare. Nobody goes into these things unprepared. So I think maybe she did have like, the training partners that was necessary to fight at that level.
Yeah.
But, the biggest takeaway from that for me was, okay, I love leg locks. Maybe I should focus more on leg lock defense instead of offense.
Yeah.
So
it was like
losing that actually.
You sat in that 50-50 and it
did.
Yeah, and it was like it was like there was like no urgency. Do you know what I mean?
I sat back instead of getting up.
Yeah.
Yes. And those moments where you go through it, and in that moment, it's about a second after you didn't do the thing you were supposed to, you go, I didn't do the thing I was supposed to.
Yeah.
And I felt the tension on my leg. And in that moment, it's that you're 1 second too late, because this is not a game of, this is a game of timing, not take your time. Yeah. As much as people are like, oh, take your time. And at this level with these females, like, it's more timing than taking your time. You better take your time to understand the techniques you need to know so that when you get in there, you can be fast with it. So I went and I watched it enough to learn from it, and then I let it go and move forward, because that's the same thing. Rob and Marcelo are always like, you can't sit there and just focus over and over on what went wrong. Like, take the lesson, and then we don't have time for that. We have to train. We got to go forward,
Yeah.
So the lesson that I took from that was, one, don't just show up not prepared. But at the same time, if the world was going to be like shut down, I would go do it again, all over again, because we may not be living the way we're living now,
Yeah.
and work on defense. It's not just offense, because
Yeah.
I'm such a submission hunter. Like I'm hungry for submissions. But it's helped me a lot, because even at this last Nogi Worlds, like leg locks, they're out there. We're at that level, and
Yeah.
I worked so much on defense after going against her that it just really added to my game.
Good.
Yeah.
Dave, do you
Yeah,
want to come in, Dave?
yeah. I wonder, Chelsea, if you could talk about LP martial arts. How did that begin, and what's your vision for that now going forward?
So LP, okay, so it's myself and it's my boyfriend as well. He did 15 years Muay Thai. He's black belt Krav Maga, and a purple belt in Jiu-Jitsu as well. Which he lets me know, like, it's thanks to me that he decided to do Jiu-Jitsu as well, because he got tired of having to deal with me. I hear it's a thing. So I was just wanting to be a competitor. I just wanted to compete all the time. I was still working while competing, which is hard, but not impossible. And we were getting to a point where it's like, okay, what's the next step? Like, what is our next step in life? Like, what are we going to do with everything that we have? Because he was very like corporate, and I'm very not. Very like holistics and like healing, and just working in industries that have to do with health and wellness. And I think we just started talking about it at some point, and it just made sense. We were like, we need to open our own gym. Plus, there were a couple of other gyms where it's like we could keep teaching, and not Rob by any means. Like I would teach for Rob forever, but we got to a point where we're like, okay, well, maybe the way people run their gyms is not how we want to run ours, right? And so he was under a couple of different other gyms as well. And it just made sense. We were like, okay, if we can get the backing, we can get the funding, we can do this. And really, the idea is to just share martial arts with as many people as possible, right? Because you can do that as an instructor, but what can you do as a gym owner, right? What can you do when you have another establishment that, honors and respects the lineage that you've come from, but also just creates more space for more people to fall in love with martial arts as well? And I just know that, through life, like, there's been a lot of things that have happened that jujitsu gave me a way that not only could I create waves of good, but I could create like a tsunami of good in the world. And I think jujitsu is my way to do that. And I think, my boyfriend as well saw in me, he was like, you could be really good at this. We could be really good at this. And I think we both just believed in each other so much. And we were like, okay, we could also have a gym where, we came up having to train at different gyms to do different martial arts, because I love Muay Thai just as much as I love Jiu-Jitsu, but Jiu-Jitsu is my first love, right? And so if I wanted to go train that, I'd go to a different gym. If he wanted to train Jiu-Jitsu, he'd come train with us, And we were like, man, we could really create a gym where people could have all of that access to all of these martial arts in one place. And I could pay my own way in life and not have to completely, rely on if I get enough clients, or if I have enough sponsors, or, how am I going to get to this event and this event? And that was kind of the start of it. And man, we just started our 4th year. So
Yeah.
I think it's working. I think it's working. And we have maybe around like 150 students. So that wanting to like share martial arts with people is a dream that has become very much a reality. So we opened actually a little bit outside of Dallas in a town called Louisville, which at first I was like, man, it's so far from Dallas. It's so far from Rob and like everybody. But you know, rule number one, when you open a gym, you don't open up next door to to the person you're training under, you know. And then also as a first time business owner, you're like, okay, Dallas, I don't know if you've heard, but it's getting very expensive. So maybe as a first time business owner, go somewhere where it's not as, you know, that it's not as many gyms in that area, and not as many businesses, more developing. Um, and so I think we chose the right space though, because I absolutely love the people that have become part of my team. And I don't think I ever would have known them had I not moved out there. But LP Martial Arts, so the name comes from my last name, Lyons, and from Steve's last name, Pate. And we looked through we went through so many ideas of names, and you'd be surprised how many gyms have already taken the names that you would name your martial arts gym. So we combined our last names, and we were like, okay, LP Martial Arts, simple enough, to the point. Um, and it, you know, it encompasses who we are. So that's how we came together. We both just practitioners, you know, and I met him through martial arts. Actually, I met him at Dallas MMA 300. But I went away for a year because I started training somewhere else, and then our paths crossed again. So
Okay.
again, I think the universe just aligned you with what is necessary for you to become who you are, you know. So we just started our fourth year. We survived, you know, the whole pandemic because we opened January 2020, and that's
Gosh.
like that was crazy. Yeah. Okay, thank you. That was nuts because you're already like a new business owner and you're like, there's so many things you're going to come across that you've never had to face before, right? Just being an
Yeah.
entrepreneur. And then 3 months after you open your gym, they're like, you're out of there.
Yeah.
You're like, oh. So yeah,
So
that's how our
so
gym came together. I actually think 2020 may have helped us,
so
if I
what
dare say.
so what did you do during the lockdown? Was there any way of keeping anything going?
So you scramble, right? And I love scrambles. Thank you, jujitsu. I feel like I thrive there. So I joke a lot, but I'm being very honest when I would say every day I would go up to the gym that we just opened. Nobody's there. I would, you know, I would like clean. I would drink BCAAs, work out really hard, and then go cry in the corner and be like, okay, how am I gonna do this? Because I was like, I didn't want to fall out of shape, and I had a gym. You know, people were wishing they could go to a gym. I had one. So I'm like, okay, at least I can keep training. I have dummies, I have things like that I can work with. But we would try to do like videos. You know, we would try to do like instructional videos you can do at home for yourself. And then we personally, for our student base, if they stuck with us, um, so if they decided to stick with us and not like cancel their membership or freeze their membership, then we offered them like 2 private lessons a month, for every month they stayed with us when they came back. So I think a lot of different people were doing different things to keep their gym going. Some gyms didn't make it, you know, some did. We weren't established enough to just have such a student base that had been with us to guarantee that we knew they'd come back after this. So our best outlet was to, or our best offer for people, I think, was just to know that when they can come train, like we'll give them everything we can, which is just our knowledge, our time, and just to help them go further because we were all put on hold in life. And then, you know, we were running such a special deal in the first 3 months of opening a gym. It wasn't super expensive, you know, so I think that also helped that people could still maintain that in a time where everything had stopped. So I think that was it. Like we tried to make videos, you know, if somebody like would call me and have a question, or we would do the Zoom meeting sometime and like just discuss jujitsu, and just talk about what we could do next. And then when they first started letting people come back, everybody was very, you know, standoffish. Like a lot of people still didn't want to come back. So we would open our gym from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. We would allow either you could reserve 1 hour for yourself or for you, and like, because people were good being around their family. So they would bring like their family member. So we would have maybe 1 to 4 people within that hour. When they leave, we would put 30 minutes between each hour, clean the gym completely, and then do it all over again. So we're basically teaching way more at that time. And I think that kind of helped us though, because once people really came back out, if we had kids training, like their parents were like, oh, maybe I should start training too, because they still didn't want to go just everywhere. And they were like, this is something I can do with my family. And I also don't have to go expose myself to places I wouldn't usually go or I haven't been to in a while. So I think we gained like adult members because their kids were training. And then if there were adults training, they're like, my kids need to do something. And I'm like, good, because I've been telling you to bring them to jujitsu anyway. And now they really had something that pushed them like, okay, I would love for my kids to have a place to train, feel safe. And I also know they're going to be okay. And it almost like turned our gym. I mean, we still have every kind of practitioner, but we have a lot of families there now, which is pretty awesome to see like a whole family learning how to fight and take care of themselves. So that's how we survived the pandemic, but I almost think like we thrived because
But
of it.
it's a great story, and what we're going to do, we're going to put your comments about this in the links and everything, and when we share this podcast out. So and for people in the UK, if you're ever going over to Dallas, then obviously they can get in touch with yourself and get some training in.
Yes, please do.
Yeah.
Like you're so welcome. Hopefully I
Yeah.
get to make it to the UK sometime as well.
Yeah, well, just if you're ever coming over, just let us know.
Okay.
What we're going to do, Chelsea, we're going to start bringing the podcast to a close now, because
Okay.
like time flies when you're enjoying yourself.
It does.
So just before we close, I just want to talk briefly about Marcelo. Okay, now myself, Dave, and everyone in the UK want to send our best wishes to Marcelo, because we've all heard that he's had a bad diagnosis lately. So we pray that he gets better very quickly. I just want you to just briefly talk about your experiences with him and rolling with him, because like I never had the opportunity to roll with him, and we had Robert Drysdale on last week, and he was saying how strong and how good Marcelo is, and that Marcelo would have actually had the strength advantage on him, and which actually shocked me. But just briefly, just tell the viewers about your experiences rolling with Marcelo and what that's like.
You ever just been wide awake in a dream? That's what it's like for me. It's like when your truest dreams is when you're actually living them in your reality, to me, so I'll try to keep this short. How do you shorten up Marcelo? Right?
Well, yeah.
So for one, like
he's
Rob had,
brilliant.
like,
the end.
oh man, just ridiculous and no ends, right?
Yeah.
So just being Rob's student was a gift in itself, because Rob truly understands Marcelo's game.
Yeah.
And like learned it inside out, because that's, because, right?
Yeah.
And so I felt like I had like a peek inside before I ever got to meet Marcelo. And then the first time I met Marcelo, we were at a world championship, and Rob was like, well, today Marcelo's going to be here, so like we'll go have coffee with him and stuff. And I was like, like okay, like that sounds great, yeah, whatever you guys want. And I just remember talking to him first about jiu-jitsu, and to be able to hear someone's like pure love for jiu-jitsu, I was like, man, I can relate to this so much. And I think, like, they say don't meet your heroes because they might not turn out to be what you think. He is my jiu-jitsu hero. He really is.
Yeah.
And he is exactly what you would hope a hero would be. He cares about people. He cares about his family. He cares about jiu-jitsu. He cares that other people have a place to learn, feel comfortable, and get really good at it. Rolling with him doesn't feel the same. Rolling with him, I don't know how to explain it. I want to tell this story. Okay, I won't tell all the stories, but I'll tell this one story. Rob brought him in for a seminar, and I think some people were like, "Well, Marcelo's here," and I was like, "Hey, Marcelo's here. I want to roll with him." And Rob was like, "Look, if Marcelo asks you to roll, cool, but don't ask him." And I was like, "I don't know, Rob, because you just told me at Worlds, like, I got to quit waiting for people to ask me stuff and just go out and get it." So this is that moment. And I got to roll with him, and I swear I felt like everything got quiet around us because I was like, okay, this is my moment. And it was really good. I think you never know if he's taking it easy on you or not. And I want to say he wasn't, because it did feel like the world was closing in around me. But then I would get like a little piece of hope. And we got very close at the end, and I had him in a submission setup, and then we stopped. And he goes, "Hey, Chelsea, why'd you stop? You almost had me." And I was like, "Oh my God." Like, I don't know if he's toying with my emotions right now, or if he's trying to make me believe that I can be like a champion, or if he legit meant that, right? So I was like, okay, when I go to Pan Am's, because it used to be in New York, it's like, I'm just gonna go train with Marcelo as much as I can and with all of his champions. And I really think I learned so much from rolling with him, because when you finally get to go against who you believe is the best in the world, you put your best self forward in that moment. So I don't know rolling with him made me realize just how much Rob knows from Marcelo, if that makes sense. Just how much Rob knows about Marcelo's game and has really been able to continue to pass that lineage on. Because even if I couldn't beat it, I knew exactly what was happening to me in that moment. Does that make sense? Because I understood the moves. And I think rolling with Marcelo, honestly, rolling with Marcelo helped me believe that I could be a world champion 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 times. It helped me believe that I could be an ADCC champion. It helped me believe that I could be anything in jiu-jitsu, because when you have access to somebody who you kind of believe like holds the light in something, and they share that with you, every time I go out against somebody, and Rob knows now too, anytime I go against somebody, he goes, "They're not Marcelo." And I'm like, "Oh, you're right. They're not Marcelo." And I believe rolling with him, I mean, I don't know how to explain it. A lot of people, they may say like, it feels like the hardest thing ever. Sometimes to me, the hardest thing ever is the best thing that's ever happened in my life. And I think rolling with him, again, like the world's closing in around me, but I know exactly how it's closing.
So what we're gonna do, right?
Yeah.
I think this is a topic in itself. So
Yes.
we're gonna get you on again.
Okay.
And I want part of that interview, I want to talk about Marcelo's game, because it's a very unique game, and I've got lots of questions on it. Okay.
I know how. Yeah. Thank you. Because I don't know how to even say that.
Let's do that on another episode, because that'll be part of the interview. Because as I say, I've got about 10 questions now that I need to fire at you.
Perfect.
And we haven't got the time. Okay. So we'll definitely
I'm ready.
Dave, have you got anything for Chelsea before we come to a close, mate?
It's just been a real pleasure talking to you, Chelsea, and I look
so
forward to
much.
speaking to you again.
Me too. Thank you so much. Thank you guys very much.
Yeah. Chelsea, thanks for coming on. You're an amazing athlete, absolute
Appreciate
great representative for jiu-jitsu, and it was an honor to train with you. So, and thanks for coming on the podcast with me and Dave. Thank you very much.
Yeah, you as well. Thank you guys so much. I really appreciate the opportunity.
Okay, good night.
Good night.
There's a brand new podcast on the scene, talking all things martial arts. If you've never seen a podcast, it's a brilliant place to start. So like, subscribe or download to the best thing on the net. Yes, he really is that tiny, please do not adjust your set. You can watch it on your telly, you can listen on the go. Tell all your friends and family, tell everyone you know. Feel free to leave a comment, tune in, give us a share. The only host that I know gets his keys from Build-A-Bear.
Gavin Davis podcast. Jump on board, we'll have a real blast on the Gavin Davis podcast. A captivating podcast streaming straight into your house. He's a little pocket rocket, he's the Welshman's mighty mouse. Great guests and conversations that won't bore you to tears. Thank God he's